Solar Titan is one of the most fun and action-packed classes to use. Seriously though, this build has high damage output and high survivability. If you like builds like this, remember hit the like button, subscribe to see more broken builds like this one. Let's jump right on into it. Jumping on into the abilities, the first up, we're going to be taking Hammer of Soul. This is going to give us some good range and good damage. Overall, this is my favorite pick for most activities that I'm doing, since I can stay back and throw a ton of hammers doing a ton of damage, or I can get up close and personal if I need to. Next up, we're going to be taking Rally Barricade. Rally Barricade is a great option since it has a lower cooldown, as well as it increases our reload speed and range when you're behind it. This offers some good incentives for when you're going into a damage phase. You can pop your Rally Barricade off to the side, granting you and your teammates higher reload speed, range, and stability. If you're going into harder content, Towering Barricade can be a great option, since if you do get in a pickle or get caught out in the open, you can pop this to give you and or your team a little bit of cover. I choose to go with Strafe Lift. Use whatever you like. This is just a little bit more consistent for me. If you like Catapult Lift, go for it. For our melee, we're going to be taking Throwing Hammer. Since this is going to be the primary damage of our build, it's a great option since anytime you pick up your hammer, your powered melee is fully recharged, giving you the ability to throw your hammer once again. When you do pick up your hammer, you're also granted Cure. Not only does this give us range, but it also gives us the ability to have a constant powered melee to use. For our grenade, we're going to be choosing the Firebolt Grenade. This is a season 20 specific item, since we do have abilities to power it up in the seasonal artifact. If you are in a different season watching this video, feel free to choose a different one and potentially go with a slightly altered version of this build. Moving on to our aspects, the first aspect we're going to be taking is Roaring Flames. Roaring Flames makes it so that final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increases the damage of your solar abilities, and this can stack up to 3 times. This means our grenades, powered melee, as well as our super are all going to be getting a massive buff. This will also give us 2 fragment slots. We're choosing to go with Soul Invictus since this is going to create sunspots wherever you have a solar ability final blow. This can be with your powered melee, grenade, and or super. Whenever you stand in one of these sunspots, your abilities regen faster, your super drains more slowly, and you're granted restoration. This will also give us 2 fragment slots. Moving on to fragments, we have 2 fragments that are critical for this build. First up, Ember of Mercy. Whenever you revive an ally, you and other allies gain restoration, but more importantly, picking up a fire sprite grants restoration. We're gonna have multiple ways to create fire sprites, and this will give us restoration whenever we're running around, keeping us nice and healthy. Next up, we're gonna be taking Ember of Searing. Ember of Searing makes it so that whenever we defeat a scorched target, we're granted melee energy and it creates a fire sprite. Since our fire sprites are going to be giving us restoration, it's good to have more options to be able to create fire sprites, as well as if you lose your throwing hammer, defeating any scorched target is going to grant you more melee energy. We will have multiple ways to scorch targets, so getting our hammer back is going to be quick and easy. We have 2 options for this build. We can either spec more into damage or spec more into full heals. If you're in easier content, it's probably better to go into full damage. If you have more players around you, again, probably better to go with more damage. But if you are trying to run something solo, more healing could be better. For a more damage build, we're going to be taking Ember of Torches. This means whenever you land one of your throwing hammers, you and your allies will become radiant, which is going to give you a buff to your weapons. A good pairing for this is going to be Ember of Solace. This makes it so that any radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. Since you're going to be running around throwing your hammer at enemies all the time, you're going to be creating sunspots, which give you restoration, and this will increase the length of that, as well as when you are hitting them with your hammer, you're giving yourself radiant, and this will also increase the duration on that. Let's take a look at what this class would look like if you are going for full heals. The other fragment you're going to want to pick up is Ember of Singeing. This means that your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. You do have a few options to scorch targets, so in this case, it's going to give your class ability faster regen, which can keep you alive in many situations. We're also going to be taking Ember of Resolve. This means solar grenade final blows cure you, giving you a burst of health. Since the Firebolt Grenade isn't super strong by itself, this isn't a great option overall, but this can be good since we do have multiple fire grenades to throw. Moving on to our armor, the exotic that we're going to be taking is the Loreley Splendor. This is awesome for solar builds since it does give you high survivability. With this exotic equipped, whenever you have your class ability, meaning your Tower Barricade or your Rally Barricade, whenever you are critically wounded or you cast your barricade, there's a sunspot that is created at your feet with improved restoration effects. This means that every time you're getting low on health, you're immediately going to spawn a sunspot, which then starts healing you. For this particular build, we're going to be using Void Weapons, so you're going to be seeing that trend throughout our mods. For our helmet mods, we're going to want to take Void Siphon. This means that rapidly killing enemies is going to create an orb of power. We're also going to be taking Hands On. This is going to grant us super energy whenever we kill with our melee. We're also going to be speccing into our font mods, so we're going to be choosing Font of Wisdom, which is going to give us bonus intellect recharge rate while you have armor charge. Next up, we have our arms. We're going to be choosing Impact Induction. This means melee attacks reduce grenade cooldown. We're also going to be choosing Heavy Handed. This means power melee final blows are going to create orbs. I also like to choose Focusing Strike. This grants class ability energy whenever you cause damage with a melee attack. This means anytime we use our powered melee, we're going to be reducing our grenade cooldown, creating orb of power, as well as getting class ability back, which pairs well with this exotic. Moving on to our chest, I like to take Charged Up, and I like to take 2 of them. This increases the number of stacks of armor charge that we can hold, and I like to hold a lot since I like to always have uptime on the rest of our mods. I'm also going to be taking at least 1 Void Reserve. Sometimes I like to take 2 and drop one of the Charged Up. This is totally up to you, play how you want. Moving on to the legs, I'm going to be taking 3 Void Weapon Surges. With 1 stack, you're going to gain 10%, 2 stacks 17%, and finally 3 stacks 22% weapon damage. This means that anytime we gain armor charge, we're going to have a 22% increase on our weapons. If you're struggling to keep up with health, there are a few other options I'd like to choose here. Recuperation is number 1, where orbs give you health immediately back. I like to choose this one over Better Already. Since we are getting a lot of restoration, Better Already seems a little redundant, and I like to have the immediate health back. The other one that I might choose would be Absolution. This will reduce the cooldown of all of our abilities, meaning we create more fire sprites and orbs, in turn creating more health. Finally, looking at our mark, I like to take 1-2 Finisher. This is great if you ever do lose your hammer, you can do a finisher to immediately get it back. Lastly, I'm going to take Time Dilation. This will slow the rate of decay of our armor charge, in turn keeping us at a higher armor charge for longer, which keeps our weapon boost high as well as our intellect high. There are a few seasonal mods that can be very good for this build. For the first column, there's nothing really important here. Choose whichever champion mod you want. Moving on to column 2, we want to take a few authorized armor mods. I'm choosing to take Void, Solar, and Grenade since these can all be applicable to this build. This will reduce the mod costs for all of these, giving us more room to operate with our mods. In column 3, there are 3 mods that I'm going to be looking at. First up, Shatter Orbs. This means an orb is created whenever you break a shield of a combatant that's matching the element. In a lot of high-end activities, there will be a lot of smaller ads that have shields, and I've been able to create mass amounts of orbs with this mod. Next up, we're going to be taking Solar Surge. This means anytime you collect a fire sprite, you gain an armor charge. Since we are speccing into our font mods, keeping our armor charge high is definitely important. Last in column 3, we're going to be taking Volatile Flow. This means picking up an orb is going to grant volatile rounds to your void weapons. This is key to this build. Moving on to column 4. First up, we have Bricks from Beyond. Whenever we kill a powerful enemy with a void weapon, we have a chance for heavy ammo. And who doesn't like more heavy ammo? We're also going to be choosing Flare Up. This means damaging a combatant with a Firebolt grenade spawns a fire sprite near them. This again is going to offer us more options for armor charge as well as restoration. Finally, in column 5, we're going to be choosing Rain of Firebolts. This is going to give us a second Firebolt grenade charge, in turn giving us more options to create fire sprite, armor charge, and restoration. This means when you go around killing with your hammer, you're going to get back super energy, class ability energy, grenade energy. You're going to create orbs and make you and your allies radiant. In turn, anytime you pick up any of the orbs you're creating, you're going to get 22% weapon damage, which does compound with radiant. And not only are you going to get more super energy back from the orb itself, but you're also going to have Font of Wisdom proccing to get your super back even quicker. Moving on to weapons, you have plenty of different options, though I'm going to give you what I think is the best option. First up, for our primary, I like to take a heavy hitter. This can include a shotgun, fusion, or grenade. My top picks are going to be Riptide with Chill Clip, as well as Witherhoard if you're going to be doing boss damage. Witherhoard's a great all around, though it is an exotic. In our energy slot, I'm going to be taking a void weapon, mainly a void weapon with Repulsor Brace. My favorite option is going to be the Hollowed Denial. This is from a few seasons back and is craftable. With this weapon, you can have both lead from gold as well as Repulsor Brace. Not only are you going to have basically infinite ammo with this, but you are going to be creating yourself Overshield with Repulsor Brace. Since volatile rounds do count as a debuff, Repulsor Brace is going to proc, meaning you're going to have Overshield as well as abilities to cure yourself and cause restoration. Not only can you heal yourself to an immaculate level, but you can also create Overshield for yourself. A few other options that you can choose depending on the activity you're going to be doing are going to be the Unforgiven, which is a SMG from Duality. This can roll with Repulsor Brace and Demolitionist. Another great option for a pulse is going to be the Velis X. This is a ritual weapon from a few seasons back that has Repulsor Brace, and I like to choose Golden Tricorn. For your scout rifle, you can take the Doom of Chelchis, which comes from the King's Fall raid. This can roll with Repulsor Brace and Explosive Payload. If you like sidearms, this is a good one. I don't know what it's called, but it's good. You can get Pugilist and Repulsor Brace on this, meaning that when you get kills with this weapon, not only are you going to get Overshield, but you do get your melee energy back. This can be good if you ever do lose your hammer. A few few honorable mentions for this build. Repulsor Brace seems to work better with a primary weapon, which is why I like to take a heavy hitter for my first slot and a primary for my second, though you could run with the Harsh Language, which does roll with Repulsor Brace, or you could take Nessa's Oblation, which is from the new raid. This does get Repulsor Brace and Frenzy, which means it's not only going to do more damage from volatile rounds, but also more damage from Frenzy, reload quicker, and give you Overshield. Finally, for our heavy weapon, again, I'm going to be choosing a Void Weapon since we are getting that 22% increase and have more reserves. One of the fun options to run is going to be the Tractor Cannon. Since you are going to be up close and personal with your hammer, you can easily hit them with the Tractor Cannon and then your hammer to do even more damage. Since the Tractor Cannon does also suppress, it's another easy way to proc Repulsor Brace on your other weapon. Other great weapons to run with this for high damage can be the Taipan, the Royal Entry, the Retrofit Escapade, or the new Regnant Grenade Launcher. One of my favorite combos to run right now is Wither Horde with Hollow Denial as well as the Retrofit Escapade. This means for boss damage, I can easily pop Wither Horde to get a constant damage on. Hollow Denial is a great option to get more ammo with Lead from Gold, as well as Repulsor Brace proccing a ton, and it does constant good damage. And last up, Retrofit Escapade is an amazing weapon since it does hold so much ammo. If I ever happen to run out of ammo for any of my other weapons, I can easily pull this out and constantly just mow down the enemies. As you can see with this loadout, we're constantly buffing our damage as well as keeping us healthy and having high survivability. For our damage, we're running around throwing our hammer as much as we can, which in turn creates orbs, powering up our weapons, and also starts kicking up Roaring Flames, which in turn powers up our abilities. Once we have our Roaring Flames ×3 and our armor charge going, we can then pull out our weapon, which is going to have Radiant, Volatile Rounds, and Weapon Surge. For keeping healthy, anytime we pick up our hammer, we're given Cure, which is an instant health boost. Our grenades and kills on scorched targets are going to create Fire Sprites, which give Restoration. Sunspots are created by ability kills, which will also give us Restoration. Anytime we go critical or pop our barricade, we're also given Restoration. And defeating Void debuff targets will give us an Overshield with our Repulsor Brace weapon. Not only that, whenever you're in a bind and about to die, you can pop your super, which will immediately cause a Sunspot at your feet, giving you already know what it is, Restoration. With this build, we have massive orb creation for the team, which is going to give more points for activities like Vanguard Ops. We're going to have high survivability, buffed weapons, and have an option for Weaken Suppress with the Tractor Cannon. This is a build I've been running for most of Season 20 and helped me beat the contest mode raid. Let me know your thoughts of the build. What would you change or how would you improve it? Peace out.